The lecture that I chose for May 2025 was a question and answer session. Now, I explained in the study guide a bit, but I'll do it here as well, that the questions and answers became more frequent as in terms of dedicated sessions. They were intermittent at first. The original plan was a lecture or a Q&A session, a lecture. But sometimes the questions turned into topics, and so the lectures got names, and so that wasn't the system for a while. By around Patrick Lecture 87, they were starting to go into a pattern of lecture topic and open forum. Now, the Q&A sessions, as these are called, are difficult to teach from because they go wherever the questioners want them to go. And when you have 10 topics in a lecture, it's hard to know how to teach that. So I focus on the Q&A sessions that seemed to revolve around one particular topic or concept. And so here we are. And this was given a name. It was called the next phase of the path. Now, there are many lectures that say the next phase. And if you get into the details, you can see where there's a shift in focus, but some of them are more dramatic than others. So in this lecture, the guide talks about where they're going to go next. It's been, give or take, 87 lectures, been a long time, and he's moving into new material. Now, the first emphasis that I wanted to place on this lecture was a section where I read that the inner world is the only reality that counts. Now, that's the kind of provocative phrase that it's nice to throw at people so you can start a discussion, because an awful lot of people will pull back and say, what does that mean? A group of people with varying experience with pathwork, what I find is that if you say, do you understand what that means? 2 or 3 people will nod their heads. Most people will not. This is an experiential concept. You don't get it by reading the lectures. You don't get it by analyzing and looking. You get this concept by deciding to take the pathwork teachings and concepts in, to apply them to your daily life, to look at your emotional reactions and all the things that happen around you on a very regular basis, consistently over a period of time. And when you see something that needs to be adjusted or changed, you go after it, you focus on that, you spend more time with that than you have in the past. By doing this, it is my experience, which I often reference because it may not be your experience. It is my experience that this statement is true, that the inner world is the only reality that counts. So, but I wanted to explain it, because if it's not your experience, then you're saying, excuse me, what about the outside world? According to the pathwork, which is what I teach, according to the pathwork, our outer so-called reality is an illusion. Now, it's not as science fiction as it's a computer simulation. In saying that, what I believe the guide means is that there are energy vortexes that go on the planet, and that there are some realities that we all share, but there's an awful lot of realities that we do not share. And even if you agree on a concept, you may not agree on how that operates. And the thing I always pick is gravity. People can agree about gravity, but they don't necessarily agree how it governs or how it controls or how we adapt to it. They don't agree on the perception of gravity. And the reality is, gravity by itself is a non-issue. It just is. So you can argue with gravity, but if you ignore it, you will go boom. But when you talk about the effect of gravity, if you deny its effect, you will have a certain perception about how the world operates. If you accept its effect on your life, you have a different perception. I remember a story, and it's going to take me a second to remember the author, but it was a radio program that I heard 40 years ago. And they read short stories on an NPR station. And the author was reading this short story about a group of children who were aliens, and they lived in a very remote area, and they could float and fly. And because if they got caught, their parents knew they would be killed as an alien species, they taught the children to stay connected to the earth. They taught the children to shuffle. They taught the children to walk so that they were never 2 feet off the ground. Now, I'm a little bit of a techie nerd or science nerd. When horses and dogs run, very often both feet are off the ground, all 4 feet. When humans run, it's very common for us to have more than 1 foot off the ground. We're basically flying in small increments. Imagine for a moment if every time you hurried up and ran and had both feet removed from the surface of whatever, the planet, even for a moment, that you would float off. How would you walk? What would your attitude be about play? What would your attitude be about addressing emergencies? What would your attitude be about rushing to help a friend or becoming happy and forgetting? If all these things would cause you to literally detach from the earth, and if that meant that your identity was revealed and that others would see you as dangerous and attack you, that seemingly small fix of shuffling, of staying connected, could impact every single aspect of your life without you fully realizing it. And then if, let's say, that aspect disappeared once you turned 21, you don't give it up. You don't change overnight. You might keep that the rest of your life because it feels safe. It feels secure. You take that experience that you had as a child and you continue it way past its usable due date. That's how I approach the false beliefs that the guide says we're here to resolve. We're here to see their effect. We're here to see their negativity and realize they're a false belief and then release them. This is a process. It takes an entire human life, if not 20 human lives, for a given false belief, perhaps 200. What does that have to do with the inner world is the only reality that counts? I am constantly reminding people that I teach spirituality. I can't fix professional issues, relationship issues. I'm not good at that. I'm not trained at it. That's not my strength. What I am teaching is a spiritual concept that you will then need to apply in your life to see if it works. And if it works, it is your decision and yours alone to continue that application, observation process throughout for as long as it benefits you, for as long as you feel there is a benefit. And for all these things that I'm describing, you're the only one who knows if this works. You're the only one that knows if you're genuinely happier, if you emanate more love or less love, if you're less frightened, if you're less concerned about the outer world and more willing to build an inner world of strength, meaning of wisdom, courage, and love that you can share with others. So this is the inner world that the pathwork is concerned with. It is not concerned to the exclusion of the outer world. You need to take care of the outer world, please do so. People come to pathwork because they feel that something's missing, that they're not quite getting something, that they're not understanding something, that they're not able to achieve what they feel they could achieve, should achieve, want to achieve. And so the teaching here is to spend more time analyzing the inner reality and noticing the discrepancy between that and the outer. Now, when I said in the beginning that some people understand this and some don't, if you take an idea and you apply it and you learn it and you really become expert at it, then there's a relaxed attitude about that idea. And you pick it up when you need it. You have it available to you easily all the time. When something is brand new and you have to work hard to remember it, you can feel clumsy and awkward. You may not apply it well. You may not remember to apply it at all. It's like realizing you're struggling with something and you've got a tool in the other room that you forgot you owned. So this is part of what I believe the guide means by the inner world is the only reality that counts in terms of spiritual development. Now, I think that the guide overemphasizes things sometimes simply because the real world emphasizes things differently. And he's it's like waving at us saying, whoa, wait a minute, you're going too far on that. So I noticed the provocative statements. They used to provoke me as a student. They still do. And so I like to put them forward and discuss them and find out how people perceive them, what they think, how they work with these concepts. So a little bit of explanation about why I put forward the inner world being the only reality that counts. Remembering that you are the final person who evaluates your spiritual growth. It's useful to get feedback. It's very useful to get feedback. But no one can truly know but you. So you get feedback to validate or challenge your inner sense of what's going on. Once again, notice the inner reality needs to match the outer reality for you to relax and feel like that you are congruent with what's going on. So, hope you'll take a look at this lecture. It's interesting. Thanks for listening. Take care.